Hello and welcome back to the What the Falk podcast. We have rebranded as an England podcast recently, but as we thought it might at some point, we are back in red and white temporarily after the news that Sunderland are probably most likely, Fabrizio Romano said that we're going to do it, appoint a manager or a head coach if you prefer, after 845,000 days. Régis Le Bris appears to be the man that the board have picked. I mean, the lads are going to just give our initial reaction to it, really, because, I mean, it's been a while and we've made jokes about it for about the last 7 or 8 podcasts. So it's nice to finally have someone that we know is going to lead us into next season. But the lads joining me, as always, is Brad Sharp. Brad, how are you, mate? You okay?
Yeah, very good today, mate. Sun's shining. I've got my team's presentation day piss up thing in a couple of hours. So, yeah, it's a good day. And couple that with the imminent announcement that we're going to have a gaffer. I'm quite in a positive mood compared to what I was it 2 days ago? Where literally I might have sounded to some people fucking suicidal. But who would have known a couple of days later that a manager could perk me up a little bit?
You know what's funny? What people won't realise, if anyone's been listening to the Euro shows, we obviously were doing the reactions to the England games and stuff, and I went over to Frankfurt for the Denmark game, and my day got like progressively worse. If anyone wants to like question my commitment to this podcast, we recorded that podcast, and I sat there editing it until about 1 a.m, and then realised I'd booked the wrong airport and had to rebook the flight and pay 500 quid for a new flight. So if anyone ever questions my dedication to this podcast, which I don't even like anyway until you're not subscribed to, you can get yourselves to fuck. Because I'm 500 quid down because I don't check my flight things because I'm editing stuff. But here we are. You know what it is. You only live once. It's just money. Just money.
Try telling the Sunderland how you are.
Lee,
At least you're willing to pay compensation.
Lee, have you wasted any money recently? How are you doing? You all right?
Hi. My first bit of direct debit came out at the beginning of the last month or something like that. So it's a bit of a waste of money. And but I'm all right myself, really. It's about time we got a new head coach. And who would know Sunderland would cheer everybody up because England's disappointing everybody.
I mean, the appointment, to be honest, we'll get into it as the whole point of the podcast, but I think it could have been anyone at this point. I just wanted to know who we were going to have in charge. I've got reservations about some things. I'm positive about others. But I think the overall feeling from, not everyone, because I don't speak for anyone in the fan base by myself, but I feel like the bulk of us are just like relieved that it's going to be somewhere. But like the name itself, like I've never ever heard. But I did want to pose a question to you, Lee. When I seen the name Régis Le Bris, when did we start naming people after cheeses, and why did we stop specifically at Brie?
I was on the spot there, Graham.
You never hear of a cheddar, do you, or any of that? No, cheese slice Le Brie.
cheese slice Le Brie.
We're going to stick with Régis the business.
We could have kept going and got Lewis Dunkables.
The thing is, there's a lot of children called Brie, but for some reason we haven't seemed to kind of go past that point. But anyway, we're here to chat about managers, aren't we? Not cheese. So, Brad, we've had links to Marich, Still, Rosigne, Lampard, random managers from random places that are going to get the job. And we've landed on Régis Le Bris from Lorient. Looks like he's going to be handed the reins. If that falls through now, I'm going to be shocked. What are your initial thoughts just on the appointments? I know it's a bit of a left field one, but when you heard the name and when it seemed like it was going to be nailed on, which it is, you might even be announced whilst we're on this podcast. What were your thoughts?
Instantly, I thought of the likes of Danny Wool and Cifuentes and people like that. They were pretty much unknowns and they came into the Championship and been outstanding. And ultimately, fans have been clamouring for them. So is it our chance now to find our own little gem? I mean, I hadn't really heard of Marich beforehand. And the more I think about Will Still, right, if it wasn't for the social media sensation that he was unbeaten in so long, but despite having not having these badges and that, he would have been unknown as well. It's only because it went viral on Twitter. If he'd have had his badges and was just doing what he was doing, then in that season, Régis Le Bris' team finished higher than him anyway. So he would have been a relative unknown. So if we are going to go down that route, it's you meet it with a bit of apprehension, but you also meet it with a little bit of optimism, and a little bit of excitement, I would say, just to see what it's all about. It's a European coach. You instantly go and look at his records as head coach of Lorient, and like I've just said, he finished higher than.
All right, Joey Barton, fucking hell.
Oh, he finished he finished in places higher than Still. Where did he finish? Is Dies? He finished in Dies position in his first season.
He finished on Dies,
and Still finished in Ons, which is 11, I think. I'm going back there. It's been 18 years since I've done French, so I'm just trying my best here. But in all seriousness, no, there was mitigating factors last season why his team got relegated, and yet you have to look at that. But I've done a little bit of more listening. There was an excellent piece last night. I don't know if people have heard it, but go on BBC Sounds and listen to Total Sport. They had a French, they have their French correspondent on there. And he's got a very good coaching background, how he's been brought through under Lorient's academy, and he has brought through quite a few decent players as well who now play in the Premier League.
He was at Rennes beforehand as well for a long time there. I think he's been a kind of an academy coach since like 2003. I think he started at Rennes and then went to I'm just going to say Lorient. I was going to try the French pronunciation, but I'm not going to do that. Lorient.
So he has brought through a few, and it is worth listening to if you've got 5 minutes on BBC Sounds, because listening to that's actually given me a little bit more optimism. But look, the proof's going to be in the pudding. I'm just glad he'll be announced, touch wood, over this weekend, and he'll at least have a week before the lads come back into training and get his feet under the table, because a lot of it's going to be just in and around the academy, the staff there, like the people who work in the desk, people who work in the kitchen. He's going to get to know all these people first. It's not going to be brand new, and then he can get stuck in when the boys come back next week. So ideally, we'd all wanted it earlier. All of us would have. It's 50, 60 days too late, this, in my opinion. But let's just try and park that, put it behind us, and just see what the lad can do, and a little bit more. I think people are more willing to get behind him than they were with the last appointment. So yeah, let's just see how we get on. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I think when Mowbray got sacked and we chatted at the time and we said, they must know who they want. We all know the kind of kerfuffle that has came after that, and the Beale situation and the Dodd situation and this period of time. But I think it came far too late, and I've lost a lot of trust because of how long it's took and all the other things that have gone with it. But on the face of it, this is sort of the appointment I expected after Mowbray went. I thought this is where they would go. So in many ways, I'm okay with that. And I don't watch French football much, but I do know that Enzo Lafille and I think it was Moffey that he had was his striker. Sort of in his first season, they both got let go, and they were both massive to what they were doing, evidently, especially if you look at the stats and stuff. And I think you only have to look at Sunderland losing Diallo and sort of maybe a striker last season, and you see what happened to us. So whilst it might sound like an excuse because he got relegated, which means that there's some bad stuff that he's done that he needs to learn from, I do think it's not it would be unfair to say there's not been a caveat to that from the little stuff of French football that I know. But I'm okay with it, actually, to be honest. I think it makes sense. I thought this would be the route they would go down when they got rid of Mowbray, so I'm kind of pleased that they have in many ways, but the proof's going to be in the pudding. I don't care what kind of football he plays. I don't care what signings he makes. I don't care about anything as long as he wins football games ultimately, because that's where the proof on whether he's been a good manager will lie. Lee, are you kind of in the same boat, or are you angry, raging that we've got a cheese man in charge?
No, the same as you. It's like, just to echo what you said there, it feels like this is the first appointment that suits the model, so to speak. It's like all the other appointments that have come previously are like more, obviously, I've been UK based, and it feels like it's just been there, so it suits. But this feels like the first time where it suits the model that's in place at the football club. And as the same as you, I expect an appointment like this as when Mowbray got sacked back in November, whatever it was. But I am happy with it, mate. And you hear the surroundings that he bringing his own people with him. It's small positive signs, which is right in a huge summer for the football club.
I wanted to touch on that as well. You kind of brought it on. I don't give you any script, by the way, but you've literally just walked into the second question. Look, I think I posted yesterday on my personal account that I'm aware that Gertz is coming in, who I believe is I think his background's in like sports science and sort of the mental side of coaching. So I'm guessing he's coming in to continue that job. He's multilingual as well. I think he speaks German, French, and English. So he's bringing that coach with him. I'm not aware of the rest of the setup, but Fabrizio Romano seems to be fairly well connected, I think we could say that. And he believes he's going to bring in like his own coaching staff. I don't think it's going to change Dodds being part of it. Whether he'll be the assistant, I doubt it. But I think he's still going to be part of it. But it looks like the bulk of people coming in, whether that's, Goetze and another two, are going to be part of his own backroom staff rather than dealing with what other managers have had to deal with, which we've always said, Lee, has felt like a negative. And I think during this period, we all wondered, is having Dodds and Proctor as part of the coaching staff like a non-negotiable? Is that what's putting people off? It doesn't seem to be the case, which is a surprise. But like, how much of a positive is that he's going to be able to, live and die by his own sort of himself and his own team?
It should be that case anyway, no matter who comes in, because obviously you used to working with a set team around you. You should be able to bring them with you to get the best results possible. It's like it bit us in the backside previously, because I'm more sure we did the same like 2014 to when I think it was Moyes got us relegated. We had that team of Bracewell, Stockdale, and Adrian Tucker, like constantly, no matter who got the job, and we never actually, other than Allardyce, got anything out of it other than relegation battle after relegation battle. So a fresh start, but do well now. It's just different voices around the training ground, and you're not just hearing the same people all the time. And to be honest, I think it'll be hard for Dodds to drop down anyway. I think I won't be surprised if he goes into some form of admin role in the academy, like a head of youth development instead of with the first team. Because with him being number one for so long last season, he cannot go back to being that good cop number two, because he's been number one for that long. But I won't be surprised if he goes into something like that and dips his toes into getting a potential head coach job elsewhere. But I think it's a massive positive. It's a massive, massive positive for the football. Ideas, is good for the squad and the football club.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm really surprised, actually. I thought maybe one of the sticking points. It felt like it was a sticking point with Will Still, like he couldn't sort of bring his team in. I mean, I don't know that, but like it did feel like it was going to be a sticking point. So the fact that we know at least one of those people coming in, being Goetze, is one of his own men, and a very well connected journalist has said that there will be more on top of that, really does make sense, and that really does please me, because I don't want to have the thought process that, and you touched on Bracewell and Tucker and whatnot before, and Stockdale. They did really well under Allardyce, really poorly under Moyes as a collective. And that's because sometimes it will work when you bring people in, but most of the time you're going to be better next to people that you know. And like, I imagine Régis Le Bris and Mike Dodds have never imagined working together. So there's like, are they going to clash? Are they going to get on? It could be perfect. It could be horrible. So for me, bringing in his own people that he knows and he trusts is just a massive, massive, huge positive. Whether you think the appointment's good or not, I think that side of it's a really positive thing. But Brad, there's been a lot of chat about how well he did the season before last, which he did. If you look at it, he did really well. He had them before the World Cup break. He actually had them fifth, which is like really, really good, to be honest. This season, he has been relegated. We'll go on to that a little bit later, but none of us are going to be experts on this guy. There's absolutely no way. I'm hoping to get someone on to chat about him who might be more of an expert than we are. But how much sense do you think the appointment makes? I know they've said they've had him on the list for a while. We'll come on to that later as well, and whether we think that's true or not. But on the face of it, do you think the move makes sense?
I do, yeah. Like you said, that season he done well. In the summer, they sold, I think, 5 or 6 of the prized assets, and then to try to replace them with youth. If you want to be,
Who does that sound like?
if you want to be the, if you want to be, I don't know, pessimistic about it, that probably is going to happen to us, but maybe it's not to the extreme as what it happened at Lorient. We might lose 1 or 2, 3 at the most. They literally lost their best players and then replaced them with youth players or people from a league or 2 below. So if you want to be a little bit apprehensive, you can say, well, that's sort of the way we're going down, and has he failed at doing it? Has he failed really? Possibly. But I don't think our recruitment's going to be quite as bad as that. We do pick up some very good players. And if he has got a record of developing some young players to then move on and play Champions League teams, Premier League, Serie A, just off the top of my head where they've gone to, then some of the young players are actually going to buy into it as well. So I'd like to think that they have done a bit of due diligence on it, and some of the players will actually get behind it as well. My only problem is it's taken this long, with some of the players that we're hoping to keep hold of, is their mind already made up that they think it's a shit show and they'll be gone. Time will tell, but this isn't about how we've got to it. He's here now. And yeah, I can only look at his first season, and he done really well, done a really good job. And that I think Lorient are in the bottom 3, or were in the bottom 3 that season for budgets, which is very similar to us. I mean, we probably still have a bit of a better budget, really, but for comparison, I think we're going to be in and around the same on paying players as what they were. So yeah, I'm quite excited by it, actually.
For all the rights and wrongs of it, I think you make a really good point there. I personally think I don't like the fact that we seem to be doing a lot of things on the cheap, but I can't change it. That's not a controllable that I've got. So in many ways, it has to be someone who's proven that they can do good on a budget. And look, there's the Michael Beale example of a good academy coach, Futsal Mickey, that goes on to be an absolute fucking stain on the world of football by being an absolute loser of a man. I have no love lost for Michael Beale. Sorry if that's harsh, Michael, but not a fan, mate. But then you've got, your Danny Rose, your Will Stills that have made a real mark at the clubs that they've been at. It's a risk. Either way, he's only had 2 years of management experience, but he's got almost sort of 15, 20 years worth of academy experience that he's then translated in 1 season of having a good season. Okay, last season he hasn't. There is caveats, and I'm not saying that caveat can't be a permanent thing and we might get relegated again and he might be awful. I don't know. But there's many reasons to say that he would be positive.
I think I'm actually right in thinking, I might get the team wrong, might be Nice or Lille. Before Christmas, they were looking at trying to take him away from Lorient.
Leeds were as well.
Leeds wanted the buyout fee was €5 million. So he must have something about him if teams like that were actually having a look at him. But I would like to put him more on the Danny Rose, Cifuentes sort of category, where he's cut his teeth elsewhere and then, right, this is my chance to go to England. Mick Beale, I don't really want to talk too much about him, but
no.
He's basically went abroad for a year or 2. He went to Brazil for a bit, didn't he? Went to Portugal for a little bit. And that's it. He predominantly just been in England. I would like to think that he's going to bring a completely different culture and different mindset to the players. And they could be quite excited by it, by looking at the same way that we are, that these young, exciting coaches are coming over to this country and they are making a mark. You can even go into the Premier League, the likes of Thomas Frank, De Zerbi. relative unknowns before they came over here. Now they've been touted for some of the biggest jobs in world football.
I feel like I feel weird feeling positive about something because I think there's and anyone who feels negative about this, like 100% can understand why you would feel like that. Like it's in some ways a little bit underwhelming. It's a big risk. It's took ages to get to appoint a manager that no one really knows anything about that will carry an element of risk. But if this had happened after Mowbray got sacked, whether he would have done well or not, I don't know, but it would have made more sense. The appointment makes sense a bit, but one thing I will say, Lee, and I touched on it a little bit yesterday. Look, I think I talked about it, and I don't like doing that. I knew blah 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 because I was told Marich was also done a few weeks back, and it wasn't. That's obviously not happened. I was told that this one looked nailed on. I think before I went to download, so 10 days ago or something like that. But I'd never heard his name before that, like mentioned at any point whatsoever, Lee. Now, there's been a few people online that have said that he's always been on the list. We've been very vocally critical of the club, and in my opinion, correctly so, for seemingly not knowing who they wanted to bring in when Mowbray went, and seemingly not knowing what they were doing come the end of the season, despite having 100 and I think it's 120 days or something on at the moment. But apparently this guy's always been part of it, Lee. How much trust do you have in that? Because I personally don't like that line. Just be honest. I don't think he's ever been part of this until recently. I don't know that. That's just an opinion, by the way.
I'd imagine if they're saying they look at X amount of managers before they appoint one, that he's always been in the top 20 or 30. But I think it's a push to say he's always been within the 5-man shortlist. Because surely if he was in the 5-man shortlist and there was Bearman, has been talk, when you look into it, there's been talk of him leaving Lorient since the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So if they wanted them that badly, they could have pushed the boat out and gotten him after the season finished. But obviously the flirtation will still put a stop to that. But I don't know. I think they're trying to save face and look, people buy into it and go, it's right, he's been a part of a 5-man shortlist. But recent history suggests otherwise.
I think so as well. I think, and look, Phil Smith's fantastic journalist, a really good journalist, and I think he posted that we'd had our eye on him since like last summer, like when Farioli and all that were mentioned. That to me would make more sense if they'd like noticed he'd done well, and then like when they were going through people and like Will still wasn't happening, they'd gone, well, what about this guy that we seen last season? He's not had a great season, however, but to see he'd always been part of this 5-man shortlist. Look, I don't know, Lee, but it just recent history smacks of that being absolute bollocks, doesn't it?
If it took them 12 days instead of 102, I don't think that would have been mentioned. Or however long it took them, 120 days, whatever it is. The fact the process has took them that long, I think they've put that quote out there. I'm not denying the work permit thing's an issue because I imagine it is for someone from abroad wanting to come into the country. But I don't believe that he's always been part of a 5-man shortlist when you've had about 9 managers linked since the summit of the job. So I can't, and he's never been one of them up until yesterday when it came out that he was getting the job. So they're either very, very good at keeping things under wraps or they're talking a load of shit. Personally,
I think also the statement that came out that said there was an imminent appointment coming, like, I get the feeling they were quite confident that Rosenior was going to happen.
Yeah,
that's my personal opinion. Look, on this podcast, we like to have balance as best as we possibly can. Whether people think we have that or not, I don't know. Do I care? Probably not. But there's a lot of things about this appointment for me that make sense. In general, I feel really positive about it. I've got to be honest. I know I might not be in the majority there because I know a lot of people are skeptical. But I'm not going to sit there and go like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. He was on the 5-man shortlist. Oh yeah, totally trusting what you're saying after all that absolute crap you spouted over the past few months, and then said something was happening imminently when Rosenior was being linked, and then suddenly Rosenior is not coming to Sunderland. And I mean, we forgot about Pascal Janssen. That was like KLD's flirted with that many managers. I'd be kind of concerned if I was his his wife like, to be honest with you, because it sounds to me like his flirtation goes a little bit too far. But I think, however you look at the appointment, and you can make your own mind up on this, but I don't believe that he's been part of this for whatever. I think he might have been on like a 30-man shortlist when they're looking through managers last summer who did quite well.
It'll be interesting to me to see who does the statement when he gets appointment, no matter who it is. Because if you look at it from all the appointments, it's always been done by somebody else. Like I would say Alex Neil was a potluck one. Mowbray was a Stuart Harvey appointment because he was mates with Stuart Harvey. Christian Speakman, right, Michael Bay was quite clearly a Christian Speakman appointment. And this one screams a KLD appointment.
Couldn't have been more of a Speakman appointment, Michael Bay. Look at it. It's like,
do you think you've got the previous 3 head coaches have all been appointed by somebody else? So that little bit has a little bit of skepticism for me as well. It's like saying who's really running it at the top.
I'll offer a little bit of balance on this 5-man shortlist thing. The names that we have mentioned, the likes of Rosenia, Dill, Le Bris, not Debris.
Reggie Debris. Debris?
I do believe that they would have been within the top 10, all of them. The mitigating factor is they were all in work towards the end of the season. Some still are. They might have looked at Le Bris and then seen that Nice wanted him and the €5 million was the buyout. So they might have tracked him throughout the rest of the season and thought, well, if they're going down, there could be a chance, possibly. And then it's just a matter of whittling through them. The work permits. How long did it take to get Rooson's work permit sorted? 4 or 5 weeks, wasn't it? Now, I've been ultra critical of KLD and Speakman over the last few months. Before that, Graham, I was a big supporter and a defender of them. So they're not going to get off scot-free, but I am trying to look at it as the mitigating factors that will have been involved is when they were looking towards the end of the season, all these managers were in post. Then there has to be the discussions that has to be had, and sometimes you just don't get your first, second, third choice. But if here's someone that was in the top 10 or top 5, I mean, there's no confirmation that they said top 5, it's just what people are saying. And if they've got to him and he was identified due to his season previous, fine. That's absolutely fine. I hope when he comes out and says, whoever it is comes out with their statement, they don't say, oh, he's one that we've just been talking to from day dot. Because that would be a point blank lie. But if they come out and say, like you've said, we identified how he done last season before last. We didn't think it was the right time to pay the compensation in the January, February. And he's here now. I'd go along with that. I'd be fine if they were just open and honest and said, we identified him previously. Wasn't the right time or the right fees to be paid. But now he's available. As someone that we like. We feel he'd be a good fit. I could get back on board with that, 100%. But they have to be very careful how they word it because a lot of fans are going to start picking up on every minute detail that they're going to say from now on. And rightly so.
Yeah, I was going to say, and rightly so. It's certainly not a criticism. Couple of other ones. I was going to ask what the concerns are, but I think we've kind of covered that anyway, to be completely honest with you. I don't think we could add any more to that. So we'll go for a couple. I think one of the big ones for me is one of the caveats of the reasons he got relegated last year, from what we've been told and what we kind of know from a minimal knowledge of French football, is that he lost his best players. So if we're looking at Sunderland, one of the big reasons, Lee, that we were so hindered last year was basically terrible recruitment. That was it. Let's not deny it. It was bad, borderline terrible recruitment where maybe one of those players made an impact. I can't think of a second one. So how important is it that Reggie the business, as we'll call him from here on in, which was, I can't remember who said that, I think it was Stephen Kennedy, very funny. I'm going to stick with it. But how important is it that Reggie the business is A, backed, and B, also given experience to work with these young players?
Massively important. And if you take in what people are saying, the club have learned the lessons and they are doing that. Based on the assignment of Simon yesterday, obviously experienced goalkeeper coming in, and as Speakman said in his thing, he's coming in as the number two, as to Patterson to provide competition. So it's a good start. But yeah, we need it. You can't expect to go in with a bunch of kids again after what happened last season, because that'll just handicap them. Then you'll think to yourself, well, I've just come from one situation where the board took my best players away and replaced them with youth, and they're doing exactly the same thing here. So I think for the money they're investing in this fella, I think they've got to. If they're paying compensation for him, letting him bring his staff in, they've got to provide him with the tools to succeed. They need to.
It's actually Seymour Moore. Just so you know, that's his name. Brad, same question. How important is it that he's backed for one, with players in the right position? Because look, it doesn't matter how much sense the appointment makes. If we don't sign a defensive midfielder, if we don't sign some experience, if we don't get a good striker in the recruitment shit again, you might as well appoint Jose Mourinho or Pep Guardiola. It's not going to make a difference.
Yeah, it's vitally important. And they've got to know that, because it's been vitally important for the last 3-4 transfer windows. Otherwise, every Sunderland podcast, every radio station, every pundit on every TV show wouldn't be saying the same thing over and over. But I do look at some of the people, like he's coached at like lower levels, younger ages, and seeing where they've got to now.
He's actually coached Jan and Veer at Rennes.
Has he? Oh, well, I'm sold now. That's it.
I read that yesterday.
Aye,
He's actually
well, I'm in
coached
then.
Jan and Veer at Rennes.
Well, that's me. I'm happy with that then. A great appointment. Been on the list since February.
If you want to come close at home, he coached Adil Al-Shish, so he's got a good relationship with him anyway.
I'm now out of the Régis Le Bris in. I was in for a minute. I'm now out. How important is it that I think one of the big things to me, we talked about bringing in this European coach, and a lot of it was because we've got so many European players. I touched before on Goetze, how he's like multilingual. I think Le Bris is. I don't know, but I'm pretty certain he is. Even if he's not, how important is it that he's got this bunch of young French players that he can speak fluently to, and also he speaks English, so he can do the same with English players?
Well, Michael Beale was multilingual. Didn't really matter, did it? But I do get it.
Cockney's not an accent, mate, and that's obviously the reason I hate them.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it is important, but the modern game, there's things in place to overcome them sort of barriers. You can put translators in there. Is it the same message that's going to be coming across? Probably it's not, because it's not what you say, it's how you say it in some sense. So if not him, if his coaching team can speak just 2 or 3 languages, it's a big plus. It is a big plus.
I think when you look at it, talking about, foreign coaches coming in, Ange Postecoglou's Australian, and he communicates perfectly fine with the English players, which I think is really impressive. So, it can work. It can work. But we've got like a couple of minutes left. There's probably not much more we can cover until we actually see what he does. But in the mainly, where are you on the scale of 1 to 10 in terms of being happy about this appointment? Assuming it happens, but it looks like it's happening, doesn't it? So
I'll go with a 7. I'm happy with it. It's actually physically done. I'm happy they've actually gone down the model route. He obviously had high success the season previous, and clean slate with his coaching staff. About a 7 out of 10. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I don't like the model, but I think if they tweak it a bit and getting a manager that makes sense with the original model, that can also get a bit of experience, I'm dead happy. I'm very easily pleased. Here comes an 8th place finish in the championship, and all of our dreams are coming true. Brad, where are you on the Richter scale of happiness at the minute? That sounds so wrong.
I'd say about 8. I would. I just feel like this could be an appointment, like these unknown foreign coaches that are coming in, and just looking at his track record, which is all we can really go off because we don't know too much about him. It does excite me. But I also just have to put it in there. I do love the English translation of his name. Régis Le Bris is govern the breakage.
Should we just leave it at that?
Yeah.
Right, lads. Thanks for joining. Appreciate it. Up the French in that. Apart from if they play England at any point, because we are at the moment an England pod.
Like and subscribe. Follow for more.
Or unsubscribe if you want. Save me a job. I won't have to pay 500 quid on flights. Fuck's sake.